Greg, and this is the Greg and Donny News Show.
Hey, I'm Donny, and today we're going to be talking about my good friend who I plan on voting for, Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, right. What is this, opposite day? We should actually do that.
Yeah.
Just to let you know, if this is your first time watching, I take the conservative position on the issues. I'm a conservative talk show host, looking for a radio show. So if you have a radio station and you want to employ me, I'm now available. And Donny,
and I'm a Walter Cronkite, unbiased, down the middle type.
He's a liberal socialist, pinko, commie college kid who is being brainwashed by the system. But we'll talk about that later.
I walked my way into that one, didn't I?
You certainly did. Yeah, that's okay. So what we do is we talk about the news, and we talk about any issue that particularly comes up, anything that interests us. This is unrehearsed, unscripted, unedited. What we say, you know, we don't shelter it. You basically get it. And I know you had a topic you want to talk about right now, so why don't you go ahead?
All right. Well, I was, we've talked about this in detail. I was for Andrew Gillum from the start.
Well, first of all, I should say we're talking about the state.
Yes, the state election.
Governor's election in Florida. The primary was held Tuesday, and so we're now going to go over that. I mean, we wanted to kind of separate this issue out as a separate topic because the governor's race has been something pretty incredible in Florida, and it's going to be. It's already a national issue.
Yes.
And so that's it. And I particularly remember. Did you see my Facebook post? Like the day after the election, I said, "This is going national. This is going to be huge. There's going to be money pouring in, people pouring in." And so watch the governor's race in Florida.
But yeah, I mean, I was for Gillum from the start. Honestly, I didn't think he was going to win. I thought it was going to be Gwen Graham. I voted for him anyway because I wanted to vote my conscience, but I thought it was good. I just accepted that I was going to have to get behind Graham. Yeah. I'd even made friends with some of her campaign people. Still am, love him quite a bit. But everyone treated him like he was an absolute joke. I mean, everyone said there was no way he was going to win, and he showed them.
Yeah, I think if you can. Because I'm not as familiar myself, go into a little bit of Florida politics of who is Andrew Gillum and who is Gwen Graham, and I think Phil Levine was also running. Can you kind of run through those personnel and let folks know exactly what's going on here?
Gillum is the mayor of Tallahassee.
Andrew Gillum, right?
Andrew Gillum, yes, and he's done some good things there. I mean, he's created jobs. The economy's boosting. Just in general, he's done a lot to look out for his people. You're either going to love or hate this one. He took on the NRA and won.
Well, the first part is taking on the NRA is not a problem. Whether he won or not, we'll debate that at another time.
But, I mean, yeah, he's just all around was, in my opinion, a good mayor. And I'd like to see him do that for the state of Florida.
Okay. If it gets a little loud in the background here, we got some wind and rain and other things because it's Florida.
Yeah.
The weather here changes regularly, and so that's what's going on. In fact, it's actually pouring rain right now. But we are nicely under the gazebo here in Milton. So the background behind us is probably going to look a little fuzzy. Remember we were at Fish House? We were at the Fish House for a rally with Congressman Matt Gaetz, Ron DeSantis.
Well, we met our current nominee.
And Jim Jordan. Yeah, we met. In fact, that's when Congressman Gaetz promised to be a guest on our show. So we're going to get him. We're going to get him on here.
You do it.
Yes, Congressman Gaetz, when you watch this video, because we know you do.
Just throwing this out there.
Okay.
Matt Gaetz, Phil Ayer, and Dr. Z all said they'd come on.
You know what we should do?
DeSantis and Jim Jordan showed interest too.
That would be, well,
you guys know who you are.
I can't tell yet because I don't want to sort of spoil the plans. We've got things in the works. Okay?
Right.
There's always things in the works. All right. So Andrew Gillum is the mayor of Tallahassee. He's still the mayor, right?
Yes.
Okay. His term ends when? Do you know?
I'm not 100%.
Is it this November?
I think so.
Or the end of this year?
I think it's this year.
So that's the first one. The second one is Gwen Graham, and you should talk about her.
So she was the favorite. She was the daughter of Bob Graham, who, as I said last week, is someone I myself look up to.
Bob Graham's like legendary in Florida.
Oh yeah, great man.
You know, he's held House and Senate for years.
Yeah,
governor of Florida. I mean, he's done all the major offices for Florida. Okay, decent guy.
Yeah,
for a Democrat.
I believe in his 80s, still active, still out there.
Well, I saw him at CiviCon. He was at the Quinn Studer
Comes down here pretty often.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she was the favorite. She's as establishment as they come.
So like the Gaetz family. So there's another one of those dynasties, you know, which can be good and bad.
She got in a bit of trouble herself because when she was in Congress, first of all, they put in like millions of dollars into electing her, only served one term, voted against Obama 54% of the time to make herself seem like a moderate down the middle type, and then ran as a progressive. Well, whether you agree with that or disagree, there's some I mean, her doing that and then running as a progressive, that brings up questions among her base, does it not?
Do you know what that actually strikes me as? The difference between a career politician and someone like a Dr. Z who did it out of being inspired because of a particular action. So you're either a cause politician or a career politician.
Yes.
Sometimes you can be both. But I think in the case of Gwen Graham, I think it was sort of an expectation that she was from a political family and had all that money behind her, and she was just going to get it because, after all, she's Gwen Graham. And so in Congress, she wants to be the maverick. This is what John McCain was famous for, but and not always the best way. It's one thing to be independent of your party. It's another thing to be independent, you know, just for the sake of being independent on the wrong things for your party.
So we had those two, and then we had the billionaires. We had Philip Levine, Chris King, and Jeff Green.
Wait. Billionaires?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. How'd they make their money?
They're all, I don't know exactly what they did, but they're all business people.
Okay.
I believe Levine's a big real estate guy. Green was also real estate, owns a lot of hotels and everything. Actually got in trouble for something he did at one of his hotels.
Oh, do tell.
In my opinion, it was...
The no-tell motel story.
In my opinion, it was sort of a non-issue, but the women I've talked to said that they wouldn't have liked it either, so I don't know, maybe it was.
Well, men and women look at politics differently. This is one of the things.
He was at a hotel he owned, and the music was up loud, and people were getting irritated, they couldn't hear each other, and he walked up to one of his waitresses and kind of slapped her on the arm. I don't know how hard he did it, but hard enough that she went and filed a police report and said, hey, go turn the music down. She said it was assault. I don't know that I'd look at it that way.
Was that the way, you know, I mean, I can see if you had to get someone's attention and it wasn't malicious and you may have swung a little more enthusiastically. It's like, hey, I need to reach you right now kind of thing. You know, as opposed to, idiot. You know, I mean, and there's two totally different things. One's an assault, and the other is like maybe a little over enthusiastic, but there was not a criminal intent to it. That's what the other problem.
Yeah, she went to file a police report, and basically said she didn't want him arrested. She just wanted that on the public record. So she didn't think it was bad enough to have him arrested, but she came out and campaigned against him. And Gwen Graham's people absolutely jumped on that. So that was Jeff. A lot of people didn't like him. Like, if you really looked up anything on the election, his was the first thing you'd see. He bought all the ads. He just kind of tried to buy his way into it. And Philip...
Do you know how much money he put into this campaign?
I don't remember. It was a lot.
Because people can put their own money in.
Yeah.
And that, I think, in some ways, is not fair.
Right.
Because if you're congratulations for being a billionaire, but I don't know, and people will say it's free speech, and we're going to have this argument another time, but I know I keep doing this a lot because there's so many topics we want to cover, but my contention is that there's a problem with money in politics. I would separate all money out of politics. I don't think any politician should get a contribution, but I think people should be able to spend an unlimited amount on any politician as long as they disclose who they are. So in other words, if the Sierra Club wants to support, say Phil Air for Congress, and they want to take out $500,000 in advertising and say the Sierra Club sponsors Phil Air because of this, that's fine. I don't care about that. But just to give money, if you give money to a politician expecting legislation, tax benefit, that's not free speech anymore. That's commerce, okay? Because you're expecting a return on your investment. And this is something we need to, you want to do an action radio bill? This is one of those issues we need to do it on, is to get the politics, to get the commerce out of politics. Make it the arguments, but don't make the money dependent on the arguments. Don't have politicians taking money directly. So when you have these billionaires coming, I don't like the idea of a billionaire spending their own money, but then I don't want to say that everybody has to spend exactly the same, because that's not right either.
I've always liked the idea, of course I'm willing to go the more radical route and say overturn Citizens United entirely, but I've always liked the idea of having them wear their corporate sponsors on their suits, like NASCAR drivers.
Nice. like race car drivers. Yeah, that'd be hysterical.
But, I mean, Jeff Green and Phil Levine were basically the exact same candidates, similar on the issues. Both had some political background. Both had shady dealings with Republicans in the past, and both just had this smug, arrogant attitude that they were going to buy their way into the governor's mansion.
Which raises the question: can you be a real estate mogul? And that includes our president, without doing something shady at some point along the way. You've got to get the contracts, you've got to get the deeds, you've got to get the property, you've got to get the permits, you've got to get all the things the government does. Is it possible to be a 100% straight down the line, honest real estate person and still be a billionaire at it?
where they got into trouble was that
My conservatives hate me for that.
Green had run into trouble because he ran as a Republican in the past. I believe he donated to some, and Levine was on record as having donated to Marco Rubio.
Oh, that's interesting. Why did he donate to Marco Rubio?
He never said.
This is, they say about politics and strange bedfellows. It's interesting how the Republicans and the Democrats donate to each other, because Trump's donated to Democrats, you know, for a large extent as well.
He was one until it benefited him to become a Republican.
So was Ronald Reagan.
Right.
You know, he says the party left him, but I actually think that most people, just because of the nature of you know, wanting to be generous and tolerant, which is the definition of liberalism, generous and tolerant. I don't think that always applies, but I think people start off as Democrats just because you want to be able to give things away, and you want to be able to help people, and that's a good thing. You know, but on the other, then you start paying your taxes and you think, well, wait a minute. You know, affirmative action is a great thing until you're told you can't have a job because you're white. I was actually told that. That is a true story. We'll go into that sometime too. But it's just fascinating the way these two things are you know, sort of all come together. One of the things I noticed about Phil Levine, and I don't remember his campaign very well, but one of my guests back when I was on WEBY was the head of Airbnb. Very interesting guy. And we talked about that and how basically the competition with the hotels. So it's a restraint of trade if a politician makes ordinances that are so strict you can't have Airbnbs and people use their homes to make a little extra money. I've used Airbnb. It's a great service. You know, I've used Uber instead of taxis. I like these new things. I like competition. That's the conservative view, is to let these, even though you're not conserving, you're actually breaking new ground. But Phil Levine had the backing of the hotels and against the Airbnb folks, and I think that hurt him.
Right. And the last one we had was, I call him the honest billionaire. There is such a thing. We had Chris King.
Well, I didn't say there couldn't be honest billionaires. I was questioning whether you could be in real estate without having to make some kind of a deal to get your first.
That's what I'm saying.
No, okay.
But
someone's got a very big truck crossing the bridge to our left here.
He was my second favorite. It was really hard for me to decide between him and Andrew. I ended up only going for Andrew because
who are we talking about now? Phil and Andrew?
Chris King.
Chris King. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, Andrew Gillum just had more going for him, in that his nomination would be making history. He drew bigger crowds. He had the better political record. But King, he's actually a favorite for lieutenant governor, and he was another progressive type.
I don't hear anything about the lieutenant governor. I didn't even know there was was there a race for lieutenant governor?
No, they're appointed here.
That's why. See, in California, it's kind of like the stepping stone. You know, lieutenant governor is kind of like your trial.
Yeah.
And then the governor takes off, like Jerry Brown goes to Russia and sets up a California embassy. You know, and the lieutenant governor is kind of responsible for everything. They're actually the governor when the governor is out of town.
Gavin Newsom's done pretty good.
What's that?
Yeah, pretty much.
Gavin Newsom's a communist.
I love him.
Of course you do.
Gavin Newsom for president.
Oh no. Oh no, Venezuela. You can stay at your Venezuelan citizenship right now if Gavin Newsom gets anywhere near national office. Toilet paper is going to, you know, toilet paper is like over 1 million bolivars.
My favorites for president, getting off topic, Gavin Newsom, Bernie Sanders, Al Franken. If those three ran, I would have
Curly, Larry, and Moe.
Got a little off topic there.
Well, there is no topic.
Right.
Well, there kind of is and there kind of isn't. It just depends on what we're doing here. But we're back to the governor's race.
Yes.
I think we've come to the Democrat. Now, the Democrat race was pretty civil compared to, I think, the Republican race, which was very different. And the two candidates were Congressman Ron DeSantis and Agriculture Commissioner Adam Putnam. And again, I knew the Florida politics, but Adam Putnam was the moneyed, you know, career politician. He had the agricultural interests and everybody else behind him. Ron DeSantis, who was serving in Congress, they said, well, how can he be governor of Florida when he spent all his time in Washington? But I'm thinking governors these days, one of their major duties, because the federal government is so powerful compared to what the states used to be, there's so much the governors have to do with Congress. It's not a bad thing to have some experience in Congress.
Right.
Didn't hurt Phil Graham.
You know, I was...
Bob Graham, excuse me.
Right. I was pulling for Putnam, not because I thought he'd be better, but because I thought he'd be the easiest to beat. And when I was expecting Graham...
That's actually a good reason.
When I was expecting Graham to be the nominee, I figured it would be so much easier for her to beat Putnam than it would be DeSantis, because my stance has always been the only one who can beat DeSantis is Gillum. That's interesting. Now, why do you think that Gwen Graham would be easy to beat, or would have an easy time beating Adam Putnam? Well, because there was no anti-establishment option there. the thing is, DeSantis, even though
they're both swamp rats.
DeSantis is as establishment as they come.
DeSantis?
Mhm.
I disagree.
DeSantis engaged. They
No.
both.
No.
Maybe they started out anti-establishment. They've become the establishment.
See, I would say just the opposite.
They're the new establishment.
Now, does DeSantis come from a political family?
I don't believe he does.
Okay, because we know Matt Gaetz does, but here's the question on that. Because even though Matt Gaetz comes from a political family, he's attacking the establishment. If you've ever seen him in hearings in Washington going after, and I wish we had the Bruce Orr ones televised, but if you ever take a look at the hearings with Ross Rosenstein, with I don't remember if Andrew McCabe was televised or not, but some of the other folks that he's been able to basically interrogate in Congress, there's nothing establishment about Gaetz. The only thing established about him is he's established on Fox News as a regular personality there, and that's a good thing. In fact, we actually talked about that on my show, of the need for being on the news and getting this kind of view out. And I see Ron DeSantis and Matt Gaetz as kind of a similar anti-establishment. Now, I don't think Gaetz is in the Freedom Caucus, which I think is interesting.
Right.
I think Ron DeSantis is, but I'm not sure.
Yes.
Freedom Caucus is the most conservative group in Congress, started by Jim Jordan.
Vote him out.
Keep him in. Are you kidding? Jim Jordan's going to be the next speaker. But we digress. Should we get the big topic?
Yes.
All right. So the big topic was Ron DeSantis made the most stupid blunder, especially after Roseanne.
Yes.
But this is something we're going to have to let go. And I think that there's been an interesting turnaround from Roseanne to Ron DeSantis, and that is the use of the word monkey. And the use of the word monkey when a black person is in any way connected. Now, there was a horrible time in our history when black people were compared to monkeys, meaning that they are subhuman, that they are not as evolved, and it's about as racist as it
Not
gets.
too long ago, and the legacy of that time period lives on, but I digress.
Yeah, and it's a horrible thing, and it's with us. It's like it's like the Civil War happened, slavery happened. We recognize this, but at some point, you're going to have to let it go. And I say you, meaning the left, is going to have to let this go, because what Ron DeSantis said, unless you're going to accuse him of racism and talk about him saying black people are monkeys, and just go right out, just say exactly, something that blatant, and know that he believes that he's not just being sarcastic, or he's not saying it like I'm saying it as part of a news report. That's a problem. And I think the reaction has changed, because that only lasted for a day. But what he said was monkeying around with the economy, referring to Andrew Gillum as a socialist. Now, Andrew Gillum is black. Okay, he's the mayor of Tallahassee. And we haven't even talked about that for a bit until we got into this now, because to me that's not relevant. What's relevant is that he's a socialist. Okay, that's what's relevant. But for what Ron DeSantis said, it's just dumb. Don't do it. In fact, I even wrote his office. I have contact with Ron DeSantis' office. I said, don't do that again. It's not worth it to give the trigger. But what do you think? Do you think
I love it. I mean, we both met him. He's a nice guy. I imagine he wouldn't, at least out loud, say something like that intentionally. But, my God, this is the best thing that could have ever happened. He made Andrew Gillum a national figure. He made everyone feel bad for Andrew Gillum. He made people get behind Andrew Gillum. Thank you, Mr. DeSantis. Please keep going. Please say it again. Please keep up exactly what you're doing. This is going to be so much fun.
You're throwing a monkey wrench into the whole election process. You realize that, don't you?
Well, I mean, it's generally not one to monkey around with, but...
And I was climbing my monkey bars this morning, trying to get a little exercise, so I'd be ready for this...
Racist.
Oh, exactly. Monkey bars are racist, yeah. But getting back to my original contention, do you at some point think that this insult of comparing black people to monkeys, which was a racist slur which was done, and people using the word monkey when it happens to be connected peripherally to a candidate who's black, can we make that distinction?
Well,
and can we at some point let this go?
Here's the thing. The comparison of black people to monkeys, it still lives on.
It should.
It's
really horrible.
The idea that black people are almost subhumans, different from us, it still lives on. Particularly in the state of Florida, which of every state was the most dominated by the Klan.
Democrat Klan. I have to keep saying
conservative Democrat Klan.
All right, yes. All right. So, and that's a problem. And that's interesting coming from California, which prides itself on being diverse, and it is the most regimented political thought place in the country. In other words, they're diverse as long as you think as a socialist. There's no room for opposing opinions. And I think Florida needs to evolve, though, just to get back to Florida here. We have to get away from this insult. We have to get away from people thinking that way, because obviously it's wrong.
Right.
You know, I mean, people think that way about Muslims, too. I mean, you know, especially after 9/11. I mean, what were the insults? Muslims were considered subhuman terrorists.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I've forgotten that. I don't even want to go into the insults. I'll think of some. You know, that people are saying, yeah, I'm going to take some bacon and wrap it around the door of the nearest mosque. I mean,
they still do that.
Yeah, exactly. That's the kind of mentality that's going on. You know, you know, most terrorists, you know, they're attacking our country happen to be Muslim. Most Muslims aren't terrorists. You know, we hear that all the time. But the thing is, people are people. There are not subhuman classes of people. There may be people that you can't stand because they have attacked you, or like in the case of illegal aliens, have killed Americans. You may hate illegal aliens for what they have done. But people are still people. There's no genetic class of superior and inferior human beings. Having said that, it's time to stop what I call political racism. Okay. Political racism is where you use the term racist to gain a political advantage. Everybody knows, or at least they should, or they will, that Ron DeSantis is not a racist. He doesn't have this deep-held belief that black people are monkeys. All right, and I can, you know, I can almost guarantee that with that, unless I talk to him, unless we get him sitting right here, which we might do one day. I mean,
do it.
You know, things have happened like that. Just have him say, what are your honest beliefs? What did you grow up with? You know, my father was a racist.
Right.
You know, but he was from Australia, and he did not like Aborigines. You know, because they're black, because they're primitive, because they were Stone Age, because they have a, you know, as different as people. Aborigines are fascinating. I love Aborigines. It's one of the most interesting cultures and one of the oldest cultures on the planet. Amazing people. But he had a prejudice against them. I never picked it up because it never made sense to me the skin color meant anything.
But here's the thing.
You know, and so you don't have to, my point is that you don't have to take on the prejudices of family members, of your society. You can say, I don't accept this.
You don't have to, but in some ways most people have. Even in bastions of progressive thinking, institutionalized racism is out of control.
Can you define that for me?
Even
institutionalized
the institutions
racism
as a whole, essentially, to target black people. There's really no better way to put it.
How do they do that?
A lot of the laws are designed specifically.
Do you find also that with things like affirmative action, black people are more sheltered than they should be?
I don't think they are.
Okay.
I mean, even places like Seattle, you know, those big progressive cities, the police are especially brutal with black people, often kill them.
But there are a lot of black police officers, too.
Right.
And there's still statistics more, you know, I hate to get into racial politics, but there are more white people killed by police officers than black people, by far.
NWA had something to say about that.
Because they're more white people.
Let's not repeat what they had to say on a family-friendly program.
No, we can't review. Yeah, exactly. Can you say it in a way that wouldn't be automatically offensive?
Well, they were of the belief that that black police would be just as bad as the white ones because they wanted to show off. I don't know if that's how it is or not. I've never really had that experience.
So now that raises a very interesting question.
That was an experience a lot of people supposedly had.
But if you're a black police officer, do you find more commonality, I'm trying to find the right word, allegiance or dedication to being black, being a police officer, being both, and the interaction therein? In other words, white police officers don't wake up, I don't think, and say, I'm white and I'm a police officer. That means I'm this, you know. And this is why we need to get beyond this, which gets us back to the whole monkey discussion once again. We've taken a perfectly good word and we almost can't use it anymore. It's going to become the M word. Not to be confused with the N word.
If we want to change that, we got to change the system. I mean, the law as a whole is biased against minorities. The war on drugs, which I'll give you, Bill Clinton was one of the worst we could have had for that.
Speaking of minorities, he wiped out the whole community of Branch Davidians at Waco. You know, you want to talk about kids who
they kind of had it coming.
No, they didn't.
No. Nutcases.
Does that mean you kill nutcases? You have a right to be stupid in this country. You have a right to be weird in this country. You have a right to be all kinds of things in this country. They could have
handled it a lot better, but these people were dangerous.
Did they get their due process?
They were stockpiling.
Did they get their constitutional? What's wrong with stockpiling? If someone puts 50 AK-47s on their wall and they're calling it
war, they were openly preparing for war.
A lot of people do that. We've got survivalists and preppers all over this country that are preparing for the next disaster, whether it's a government takeover or whether it's a natural disaster. Are you saying that because they do things that are not ordinary that they should somehow be victimized by law
I
enforcement?
mean, I agree it was awful what happened to them, but to act like it was just this big, terrible thing. Well, it was a big,
It was this big, terrible thing,
Yes.
yeah, because they were
But
gas
to act
burned
like-
and bulldozed
to act
into the
like
ground.
these were just innocent people just sitting around, and out of nowhere, the mean old government came in and shut. No, they gave them reason.
They deserved their day in court. They really did. And here's the other thing too. See, I consider Bill Clinton a war criminal against the United States for what happened at Waco.
Oh,
okay.
Well, not for that.
Oh, what do you consider him for?
Clinton, both Bushes, Obama, Trump, all war criminals.
For
They've all committed war crimes in the Middle East.
Oh, for Iraq and Afghanistan? You know, what we need to do.
The Iraq War was a war crime.
You know, I'm thinking what we should do is a separate show. Well, another note to myself here. Iraq and Afghanistan. We need to go back into the history.
Yeah, we accidentally turned our state election episode into a war episode. Funny how that happens.
Well, see, so many things relate to so many other things. That's just how it goes. You know, but here's the interesting thing. And here's another thing too. I mean, you can just guess what our soldiers called the Iraqis, you know, and the Afghanis, the sand something or others. I forgot what the expression was. I think it was sand N-word.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, we'll still maintain our decorum here. So, is that racist? Of course it's racist. All right.
Happens in every war.
But what if you have if you have an Arab American soldier in the Middle East calling Iraqis sand N-words? Now what do you do? See where this gets confusing? There's a lot to it. We need to get past using words as weapons. We're talking about weaponizing things. Monkey is one of those words that unless you're specifically saying black people are monkeys and you're using it as a racist term because you honestly believe that, we need to start allowing the language to flow more freely, and that's the last thing I want to say about that. What do you think?
That's what you mean there. It is a very, very slippery slope because that stereotype is one that to this day gets fulfilled. But yes, I also would like to see us move past identity politics.
Okay. On that note, we're going to shut off this episode here.
All right.
This is the Greg and Donny News Show. I'm Greg, you're conservative.
I'm Donny, you're liberal. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe our YouTube channel, the Greg and Donny News Show YouTube channel, and the Greg and Donny News Show Facebook page. Your turn to turn off the camera.
All right.
And I'll just sit here and talk for a minute because we have so many. We'll be back for more. We still have to do our Labor Day special.